Where exactly is the heavenly court? That's my topic for this morning. Now, I mentioned that the courts were open a few blogs back, and today I want to explain to you where exactly can we find the heavenly court. I'm going to sing you a little song to start with, to whet your appetite. I'm not great at singing, but I'll do my best. Psalm 48, first couple of verses. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountain of his holiness, beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth. Is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great King. Mount Zion, a mountain in Jerusalem, a mountain in the physical Jerusalem and a mountain in the spiritual Jerusalem, the heavenly Jerusalem. So Mount Zion is the place where the court of God, the courts of heaven, are situated. The prophets in the Old Testament had various glimpses into the courts of heaven. In the court of heaven there will be the judge, and there'll be a throne, a place for him to sit. The Lord's referred to quite often in the Old Testament as the Ancient of Days. Let me just read you, I'm reading from a book that I summarised called The Courts of Heaven, modules of the Courts of Heaven. If you're really interested in the study, just contact me and I'll arrange to send it to you either by soft copy or by hard copy. Okay, Daniel chapter 7, I'm reading verse 9 and 10. As part of a vision, Daniel saw thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was white as snow, the hair on his head was white like wool. Mine's still a little bit blonde, got some aging to do yet. His throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. A river of fire was flowing, coming out from before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000s stood before him. The court, there you are, the court was seated and the books were open. That's Daniel 7, 9 and 10. Now in the Amplified Bible, in verse 10, it reads, the judge was seated, brackets, the court was in session, and the books were open. It's very clear that Daniel was viewing the court of heaven in a vision. And the most interesting and detailed reference to Mount Zion is in Hebrews. Let me read you from Hebrews 12, verses 22 to 24. Again, I'm going to use the Amplified Bible. In the Old Testament, remember, Moses and the people approached Mount Sinai. But in the New Testament and for the church, we have not come to Mount Sinai, which was burning with fire and terribly dangerous to go near. We have come rather to Mount Zion. So this is the heavenly city. Hebrews 12, verse 22. Rather, you have come to Mount Zion, even to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to countless multitudes of angels in festive gathering. In other words, they're having a party there. And to the church assembly of the firstborn, who are registered as citizens of heaven. We ought to know that. We ought to know that we are registered citizens of this heavenly Jerusalem. Registered citizens of heaven, and to God, who is the judge of all, and spirits of the righteous, the redeemed ones in heaven, who have been made perfect, and to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and the sprinkled blood which speaks of mercy, a better and more gracious message than the blood of Abel, which was crying out for vengeance. There's quite a lot in that little couple of verses there, and it's a crowded courtroom. First of all, you've got a judge. Now, this is the judgment seat. When we read in Hebrews 4 and verse 16, we go to the throne of grace. We can approach our Heavenly Father's throne knowing that He loves us and He wants to give verdicts in our favour. How do we get there? Well, God has given us a way of getting there by the Spirit. You have to go in the Spirit. I'll come to the other things in the court on another occasion. I want to just explain how to get there. If you were in a real city, not a real, I mean a physically real city, people could give you directions to the important buildings, and one would be the courthouse. To get to the heavenly court, first of all, you need to use the screen of your imagination. You need to see in the Spirit. So you close your eyes and you read the scriptures. You've read the scriptures before, and you see the courtroom. You imagine the courtroom. Now, in modern life, imagination is downgraded. Oh, it's just your imagination. Imagination is a God-given tool for seeing in the Spirit. We close our physical eyes and we see with our spiritual eyes, and we see this courtroom, the heavenly Jerusalem, multitudes of angels, and God, who is the judge, sat down, and of course the spirits of just men made perfect. This is where our spirit goes into court to ask the Lord to do something on our behalf, and those courts are open, but we have to use our spiritual body, go in the Spirit, see ourselves in the court, and see the court assembled. That's how it's done. Now, don't downplay imagination. Imagination is the screen that we use to see in the spiritual realm. So that's where the court is. Mount Zion, beautiful for situation. And that's where we go, the court of heaven, before our Heavenly Father, who happens to be the judge.